everything that we're doing is a learning experience.
It really is. Okay.
How not to record a podcast is like the number one thing that we're teaching people.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, I'm Joseph, and today is April 26th, 2020. We just have...
For viewers at home, I was going to say, your boy wasn't recording his audio. Me, I wasn't. So we're redoing this opening, so if it seems like we've done this, like it's rehearsed or practiced, that's why.
Just keep in mind, for everybody at home, we don't practice or prepare for this at all. So if you ever feel like we have, there's certainly something wrong.
Or we have incredible, what is it? Synergistic synergy.
Sure, you could just call it vibes, but synergistic synergy works as well. But
yeah, we got those good vibes.
Always good vibes here on the Patch Notes podcast. Or Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast.
Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast. So, Mr. Joseph, I heard that you have something really cool to announce.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes ago. I think we were just talking about something. It's almost like anyway, whole thing. So announcement is that Synovia and I are moving back to Tucson from Seattle. So we just drove up from Tucson to Seattle. It was a 26-hour drive, and we slept for 4 hours total in the car in someone's driveway in California. So
some rando?
No, it's someone that Synovia and her family, they know. So he let us, because it's like illegal to sleep in a car on the street, I guess.
Oh.
So we parked in his driveway in our rental car and then slept in the car from like 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. and then drove again from this is the Bay Area to Seattle, and that's a 13-hour drive. So I drove like 8.5, and then Synovia drove the rest. And
did you guys sleep when you weren't driving?
Synovia tried to sleep, and so did I. It's just very hard to sleep in a moving car. Drive in a moving car is easier.
To drive in a moving car, huh?
Yeah. So that's kind of what I alluded to last week about not being able to do anything for the next little bit because I don't have any time for home games work. I'll still do this podcast, but I don't have much to contribute to the conversation besides just bouncing off of whatever Yazeed says. But yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, and just to play off of that, even if you don't have work to home games, there are still things that we can talk about that we really haven't had a chance to discuss in great detail.
Sure.
So
yeah, there's stuff to talk about. I guess my update is that I will not be writing code for home games for 3 weeks or so.
Which means you're all stuck with me.
But yeah, in the process of moving, we're currently trying to pack up all of our stuff. You see everything around me is a mess, but that's always the case. But we're going to be packing up all of our stuff and putting it into a container, which then is shipped to Tucson with all of our stuff. So that's what we're doing. And life is a mess at the moment. And we have a lot of whiskey I had to get through because we just have a lot of whiskey in the apartment, and we can't really take that with us when we can. But, so point is I've had some beverages at this point in the day. And I also got home 3 hours ago. So, I just don't know what's going on is really what's my summary.
It's all good, man. So since you left, I just want to give this real quick update, but you actually missed, I think, one of the hottest days of the year so far. It was 98 at one point. It was, according to my phone.
It was warm yesterday and, the whole whatever leading up to it. It's been weird because it's been unseasonably cool up to this point. It's been really nice in the evenings and stuff. But then in the news, they're like, oh, yeah, record day is coming up. It's hit you like a wall in Tucson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure did. Sure did.
Yeah.
I just got back from my walk run with dogs, so if I look a little disheveled or sweaty, I am.
Do you
both those things?
Do you when you call her? Do you call her Sapphire or do you call her dog?
It depends. I call her Sapphire. When it's for a kid, you give their full you read their full name, full first name, middle name, last name when they're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's me with her, and then I call her Little Lady when I'm not, because she's a little lady.
Yeah. That makes sense. My old dog Bailey had a name. It was Bailey, but my tata called him Puppy, but he had an accent, so we called him Puppy. So Puppy. And eventually he whatever, that was his name. Just curious if you're gonna call Sapphire dog at a certain point.
No, I refer to her as dog because she looks at me whenever I say either of those other two names. Like, oh, what do you need from me? So I just refer to her as dog. She doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
So I can get away with it.
Nice.
I can tell stories about dog and no one needs to know. Well, dog doesn't need to know.
Nice.
But let's get into it, man. Homegames.
What's that?
Stuff.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of like go through some of the stuff I was working on. So one of the things that I was doing was in preparation for when the new package of Squish.js comes out, which I'll talk about later. So, or actually a POA, PIA,
Pain in the...
a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
The way the test runner used to work was you would give it a list of files and it would run those files. Like it would run like the tests in those files, which is fine if you only are going to run one or two. So I'm going to put out a PR this week sometime, probably after this. Well, maybe after this, maybe a little bit after this. But when no files aren't passed in, it will instead take a look at whatever is in the test folder and run any .test.js files, like run the tests in those.
Yeah.
So it also gives us the ability to run npm test without having to give like a giant list of like a file name list as well.
Sure.
So just smooth things out a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to run like the full suite, which I think is probably going to be helpful when we finally get CI up and running.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Speaking of CI, I have no idea when we're going to do that. We have Alex's Docker stuff that's been approved for like a month. But anyway, we'll have to figure that stuff out. But yeah, that totally makes sense. The .test.js thing, like to have a consistent like test directory with everything in it.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the other thing too is like it searches the subdirectories as well, so you could put like subfolders. Like right now on the home game side, there's like a games folder. So there's tests, games, and then in there's like the Square test, for example.
Yeah.
So then just like as I'm going through and checking them, I'll probably just create a test file for each of those and just have it run the basic game tests for right now. And then whenever we get around to it, we can add more unit tests to them if we want.
Yeah, that works.
But yeah, like that's the idea for right now. And that was kind of like what I was working on this week when I realized like this is going to be a pain in the butt to run all of these without this kind of like test suite utility.
That's a thing with Python too. There's a testing framework called, I don't know if it's a framework, I don't know, PyTest. And so it's just any like method with the word, like it follows the structure like test underscore something, and it just runs everything in that. So it seems pretty useful to have.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping it is useful.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second one was while I was working on writing a couple of changes to to Square. I realized my check collision is wrong. The way I'm checking collisions right now is where the square currently is as opposed to where the square will be, which is a problem because that means that for me to check collision between players, I need to move the square, then move it back, which I think is wrong.
I think we talked about this maybe like 2 months ago. Anyway, about like how the current thing accepts a game node as the argument to check collision. You're calling check collisions in Squisher, right?
No, I have a custom check collisions because it needs to do a little bit of different stuff based on like what's colliding with what. So
the check collisions thing in Squisher will give you the list of everything that it would collide with, if that's what you need.
I'll take a look at that actually. Because if I can make an update to just the core check collisions, I will do that. But continue with what you were saying. Sorry.
Well, I guess specifically, what do you? Because I was gonna say I don't like the idea of duplicated check collision logic. Like if that exists somewhere, then what do you need from it that could be generalized out so it's not tied to Square?
It's not really anything I need from it. It's just I have to pass it different sets of objects basically. So like if it runs into an NPC, I need my squares to do one thing. If it runs into another player, I need it to do another thing. If it runs into the destination square, it needs to do something else. So like basically my check collisions is just like, it's very similar to the Homegames check collisions. It's just when it runs into one of them, then it does the check, as opposed to building the full list. So it's a little bit snappier than building like the full array of everything it ran into. It's just saying like, what specifically did I run into something? Did I run into something? That's the question that I'm answering.
So would like a filter help of like, did I run into something of this type? Or not even of this type, just some that matches this condition. I pass you a function and then I call it, and whatever the valuation, like the Boolean result is.
That might actually be helpful. Well, I think the problem is that I think I use like the .sum function in like the arrays .sum function. So basically like that will return true on the first iterate, like the first instance of it being true. So if I ran into any NPC as a player, doesn't matter
so
which one, I need to jump back.
It would break the tree traversal, so it's...
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Which like, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be... I think that some games are going to need their own custom check collision, and I think that's okay.
We could probably figure out a way to abstract that specific thing of like by adding some sort of parameter that says, you know, I want to get all the collisions, or basically has collision, something like that. And if it has anything, then kind of return immediately with what the first thing would be to kind of support both.
Interesting.
I don't know. We could.
I'm interested to see if that would work. But I think the problem is that technically, everything has at least one collision on square, because everything is sitting on top of the base game, and then there's the background color, and then there's like the finish line and starting line. So there'll always be like a collision.
There's a filter on the I believe there's a filter on the existing check collisions where you can basically say this is something that is collidable. So like the logic is like,
I did not know that.
If you can click it, then it's collidable. So like a lot of the times the root is just a simple colored background, and therefore it has no interaction, so it's not really collidable. I think we support that kind of filtering at a basic level, so maybe I can like expand it out a little bit.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it actually. I think I don't remember why. I think the original reason why I have my own custom check collision is because when I first started working on Square, I thought the Homegames check collision was incorrect. And then we had a podcast where we talked about it, and you were like, no, there's a mathematical proof for this being correct. And I was like, well, all right. And then I just never went back to change mine. And I was like, I'm leaving it.
Joseph's probably wrong, which is a fair assumption to make most of the time.
No, I don't think you were wrong.
Scenario.
I believe that, I believe that you're right. It's just, I was into, at that point, I was like 90% of the way through. So I was like, I'm just going to finish this.
Yeah, I mean, no big deal.
But,
you can do whatever. But,
yeah, I'll take a look at making some changes then to the check collision and seeing if we can get it to like change what function is passed in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be like maybe another change I'll work on this week as well.
Sure.
And then the last thing is, it's actually more a request to you. Can you make the new package, or give me the ability to make the new package?
Yeah, I'll give you the ability. I just don't know how to do that, but I'll figure that out.
I think you have to add me as a collaborator.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means, but I'll figure out how to do that on the npm stuff, and make you just send me your email or whatever you use for that stuff after this.
Okay.
And that'll be my work for the week. I'll report back next week and all my all the challenges I encountered with filling out that web form.
I mean, once that's done, I'll go through and update all the games to use the new colors and the new Squish.js package, and then also I'll just go through and make sure that they work and add a unit test for each, or like a unit test file for each one that just calls the basic unit tests.
Yeah.
So hopefully all this stuff snaps together quite nicely.
Nice. And then we'll have everything kind of good to go for people to actually play a video game in Homegames. Which is very exciting.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Did you want to go into what you read on here?
Oh yeah, I know I mentioned I have no real stuff, but I did do a little bit of work on Homegames last week, and that's just was testing sound. I think I mentioned last week that I wanted to do a jukebox app, and I think, did we talk about it on the podcast, Yazeed, but about the idea of like playing a part of a song and seeing who can get the name of it or something? Or was that off, or was that not even a conversation we had?
Okay, we did have that conversation. It was either when we were playing Call of Duty or during the podcast, and I don't know which
I
one.
want to say it was Call of Duty. I don't think
I think it was also Call of Duty.
we had this idea of that TV show Beat Shazam or whatever, where it's basically just. I don't know if you've seen the show, Yazeed, but basically there's the app Shazam where you know what Shazam is.
Yes.
Okay, so the whole show is people basically just hearing a part of a song and then competing with each other to see who can get the name of the song correct first. And then eventually when you win that, you have to beat Shazam. So it's you versus the app. I don't want to have the app figuring out the song or like telling you the song at a certain point. I don't want to do that. I just think it'd be fun to have people, and we were talking about people competing with like, oh, play a part of a song, and then it's like, tell me what song that is. You heard a second of it, but maybe we can kind of figure out like a game from there of like, maybe you request more of the song to play and then your points go down, or speed thing. I don't know how speed works when interaction has that little bit of lag. Like there's a little bit of lag in everything that happens. That's like noticeable.
Well, I mean, I guess okay, we'll finish the explaining and then I'll talk about the. We can talk about. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna mute myself real quick. We'll talk about lag next week.
Okay. I feel like that's like not a good sign. The way that your tone shifted when you talking about lag, but whatever. Audio still works.
I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. Lag is, but we'll talk about it more like in depth next week. Cause like I want to do a deep dive into like what is lag, and then kind of like where lag's coming from and stuff like that. So we'll do a deep dive next week.
I still don't know where lag is coming from. That'd be a great question. I have a hunch of where it's coming from, but yeah, we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, my summary there is that sound still works miraculously. I had to tweak a little bit of stuff. I don't even remember what it was. Look, like this is like the crazy thing. I spent 2 hours working on getting audio to come through the speakers, and it was not working. It was either like a tenth of a second, like 100 milliseconds of just static, or I would get an entire like 3-minute song to play, but I couldn't get a simple sound clip of like 1 second audio to play. It would just be like truncated or whatever. And I had no clue what was going on. Cleared all the asset cache, downloaded the file that I like, took the array buffer from the thing that was in the client, put that into a file, from another whole thing in Node, and then tested that output file, and it totally worked. I had no clue what was going on. 2 hours later, everything just worked. And then I did a git diff. The only things that I had changed were adding console logs. So I truly have no clue what I did.
Sounds like there's something asynchronously happening.
Maybe something about the like audio devices API thing, but if I remove those console logs, I'm like 80% sure it'll still work. It was just like a weird little thing that was happening for a bit, and I have no clue what was happening. So I say on the notes here that testing sound works, but I guess you could put that in quotes. It doesn't work consistently, I suppose, without my 14 console logs. But
professional software developers, by the way.
Truly professional software developers. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the basis of what I'm going to do. That's the last thing I wanted to do in this kind of giant batch of changes that I talked about last week and the week before, I think. Before I put all that stuff up for review, is I want to make sure that sound works consistently and that sound works in a way that can make something cool. In this case would be a jukebox, to kind of start the foundation of that thing we were talking about, of like some sort of competitive thing of saying the name of a game or name of a song or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we could do is take a look at maybe like making a game that's tied to Spotify. So you put in like your Spotify credentials and you just pull from your like a playlist from Spotify.
I thought about that, but I don't want to add, if we have to, like if we could do that with just HTTP, that'd be amazing. But I don't want to add like an SDK to our dependencies if we don't have to.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, then that'd be awesome.
I don't know. When I was learning React, there was like a class that I did that had like a tie-in to the Spotify API. But I don't remember if there was any extra packages in there, because it's React and it's just like, well, I ran NPMI and it all worked, so we're good.
But then there's also the thing of, if you have to sign in through Spotify, that might be, I don't know if there's any kind of restrictions, but we don't have SSL, so I don't know if that restricts anything about sending your Spotify credentials over I mean, I'm sure maybe they have some sort of like. See, that's what I'm saying. We don't have if we don't have like an SDK for them to like allow me to have like a separate connection for secure stuff, then I guess it's just HTTP. But I don't know how that works within an unsecure browser context.
It's a really good question. I don't know either.
I have no clue. That'll be something we can look at.
Well, no, because I was running it on my local. Like, it was on, like, a local host that I was connecting to Spotify and back in.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not making, like, an HTTPS request. It was making an HTTP request.
But I guess it could have been making HTTP. I don't know how anything works. So we should probably just look into this.
That's, like, in the future. But that would be an interesting, like, other way of getting sounds as opposed to somebody just having, like, sound files on their computer.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, that'd be a great thing because, like on the drive up here, I played my Spotify playlist for the most part, and it's this like really weird thing where within the first half a second, I know what the song is, and Synovia too, when we played her playlist, like she knows what the song is. She's like, "I'll skip that. That sucks" or whatever. And I remember reading once how like your brain, sorry, actually edit this out because this person shouldn't be calling me, but they're calling me.
Graham is like this.
Yeah.
For audio only listeners, I made a circle.
Yeah, I think like Synovia has this playlist with like 3,400 songs, which are just her like songs, and I would guess that her like ability to determine the name of the song, the name of the artist is less in that playlist. But like in my playlist of like 1,700 songs, I would guess that I know like 90% of them from the first second of it, and that's just because I listen to that playlist all the time. It's like embarrassing. I don't listen to like new music, so yeah, I don't know. I think there could be a fun game there somewhere. I just don't know what to do, but I want to lay the foundation for audio in general by doing that, and then the Spotify stuff I think can come separately. We just have to figure out how exactly we integrate with Spotify without doing weird stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested to know how we do that too. I think we can do it, but we'll figure that out later once audio is like locked in. Because it's like only one person should be signed into Spotify. Everyone's phone shouldn't be signed into that one person's Spotify.
Are you saying one person in like this hypothetical game session should sign into Spotify, or everybody can anybody sign into their account to do something independently?
Anybody can sign in, but the server needs to be signed in with one person's credentials. Because if we weren't signed in with one person's credentials, I think we have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, one person, like one device, one person should only be signing in with their own Spotify credentials.
Well, no, I mean like the server that's like picking the song to play.
Oh, okay, got it.
That should have one person's credentials as opposed to everyone's credentials, I think.
But unless you want to do something like, say that it's something super basic, but there's two people and they both have playlists and you want to play the songs in a round robin, do you have to sign in each time? My song, your song, my song, your song? I would assume that the client has some sort of thing. It would be like, hey, I'm logged in as user X. You know my stuff. Like,
I wonder I don't remember if they use web tokens or not. There's a lot to be discovered there.
Yeah, maybe that could be a thing that we talk about later. But yeah, we could do some investigation there and figure out how
for next week, integrating with Spotify.
Yeah, just it's a podcast planning, content scheduling, that whole thing. Podcasts is all over the place. We're talking about our future podcasts without much content in this one.
Hey man, there is content.
No, we got content. It's about future content.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on the sound stuff?
Let me check. No, I mean, I seriously just did that, and everything else is just moving and my life being on fire. But yeah, it's whatever. Driving across the country in the middle of a pandemic is very strange, by the way. It's
probably like periods of no traffic and then periods of intense traffic is my guess.
I was amazed at the traffic. Like, we were originally going to drive. I guess this is the what's up section, so you can put this stuff here.
Well, we'll talk about that later because I actually have one more topic I want to talk about for Homegames.
Okay. Anyway, moving is hard. Anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull you in too deep for that. But one of the discussions we had last week was terms of service. Yeah. So, kind of the idea is like, what would be my idea was that we talked like while I was on the walk. I was thinking about more of how I wanted to structure this, and the way I want to structure this is to start off with first. What would be the flow? Say I am a rando. Call me Steve. I'm Steve. Steve wants to make a pull request. Sorry, Steve wants to make a branch of Homegames and then make a pull request against it. Or does Steve have to fork it and then make a PR from his fork into Homegames?
Mm-hmm.
Then what's the review process? Then what is the merge process? And then finally, what are the release like?
Yeah. Are you asking, or is that kind of like an open?
Well, I mean, to me, that's kind of like how the flow is. But I guess like each of those steps we probably want to talk about a little bit. So like, does Steve make a branch on Homegames proper, or does Steve fork and create his own a branch on his fork? Sorry.
I would guess it's a fork because it seems like that's the like standard way to do it if you're not a contributor. I don't want to have to be adding people as contributors. I think anybody who wants to make a game should be able to make a game, so they should be able to fork master and then do whatever.
Okay, so the idea is they make a fork, do whatever they want on there, create a branch, and then if they want to, they would make a pull request. We wouldn't go and make pull requests from other people's. They would offer.
Yeah, I think the first interaction that we can have with somebody maybe would be, unless they have a specific question about if something would be allowed, or if they need guidance on how to do a particular thing, or if they have like a specific feature request, like, hey, Homegames can do this, but I need to do this to build my game. Can you guys build this while I do this? Unless they have anything like that, I think the first interaction should be like a pull request. Like, hey, I built this thing. You guys should take a look. Here's all the context you need. Unless they need more kind of back and forth.
Okay. Should we come up with like a pull request template, like use the GitHub's templating tools, or should we just be like, free ball it, just give us enough context, and if we need to, we'll reach out to you?
I think at least in the beginning, we don't necessarily need a template because I don't think I even know what we're looking for. I mean, really, I just want to get people interested at the start. I think providing too much process would provide, I mean, like, it's kind of a double-sided thing. If you provide context, that's what you need to give somebody to get started. But if you provide too much and too much process, then it's like, I don't want to do this. So,
yeah.
There's some sort of middle ground, but I don't think we can really define what exactly we're looking for because we don't really know it yet.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, but person would make their fork, make their branch, make a pull request. It comes to one of the two of us or both of us, and we would review it. Yes?
We should both review it. I think it should require 2 approvals.
2 approvals to review?
I think at minimum, even if it's not the 2 of us, like imagine a future where Alex does this stuff and like maybe other people do this stuff. Like, I think just 2 approvals in general is a good thing, because otherwise you can always just have one person. Like, I do this kind of often of like, oh yeah, it looks good to me. I haven't really looked at it super thoroughly, but it looks fine. And then like, yeah, approved. But like, you know what I mean? I think having 2 people from Homegames taking a look and like agreeing that it's okay to merge instead of just one person being like, oh, I thought it was fine and I brought it in would be helpful.
I agree. Okay, and then final question: who is doing the merging? Is it person who created the pull request, or is it the last person to review?
I think it should be the last person to review. I think the process should be, I will only put up a pull request if this is ready to be merged. And if it's ready to be merged, when it's approved, it should be merged. And instead of that gap between me approving, because then what? It's like, oh, this guy put up a pull request. I approved his thing the following week. Ready to merge right now. And let's say I have these changes ready to go for master as well. This guy's stuff is based on current master, and maybe there's some merge conflict that I need to resolve with this. But I would essentially be saying, hey, can you please merge your stuff? And then my entire pipeline is blocked by this person. So to avoid that, we should just merge the stuff. And then if we have conflicts in our changes that we were going to put in master, we should fix those.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I understand. So we merge it in, and then we're good to go. And then other questions: should we require test coverage percentages. So like there's a way to prevent people from merging in a branch that has dropped the percentage of code that's covered by tests, or no?
I've previously worked in environments where we had to meet code coverage requirements, and I don't think it benefited us in the way that we wanted it to. It was like testing your getters and setters is never valuable. Yeah. Like I have this, for example, let's say I was writing Java and I was using a thing with like, annotations for setters and getters. It's a simple like class definition, but you're going through at the end and you're saying, okay, make sure that this .get is called, make sure this .set is called. Here's this branch in this condition that is not being checked. I'm at 89%. I can go test this getter and hit the 90% thing and not test this logic, and I'm good because I'm just doing it for the requirement. It's not actually doing anything that benefits me. If I want to test the tricky logic and that's what needs to be tested, I should test the tricky logic. I think it's like a more case by case thing. You know what I mean? I think just having a blanket statement of like 90%, 80% is not super beneficial.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand. Okay.
Because
I think sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was kind of thinking also how that goes into like the process and stuff. I think if someone is like, hey, you made a game and it kind of sucks, like I think that person like might be encouraged by being able to contribute, but then we're like, oh, hey, you have to go and write tests for 90% of it or whatever, arbitrary number. And it's like, oh, dude, you know what I mean? Like, come on. If it's broken, it there's a line. Like it shouldn't be broken, but it shouldn't be super crazy, meticulously. You know what I mean? There's something in there and it's very fuzzy.
So there should be unit tests, but we don't need it to cover like 100% of every line you've written in that test file.
In my opinion, and I think that can change. I'm not like super set in stone on that. I just, in general, don't necessarily agree with line percent coverage.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I think I agree as well. I just wanted to double check that, like, whether or not we wanted it or not. Because I also don't really like percentage of code coverage, basically, and I also don't have no idea how we would implement that. So
I'm sure there must be some framework somewhere that does that, but I like the whole thing of avoiding frameworks.
Oh, there's frameworks for sure that do it, but I thought the idea was we didn't want to use frameworks. Exactly. So
I mean, we would
have to implement code coverage.
Yeah, that sounds. Maybe it'd be fun. I don't know, but that's not like what I want to be building at the moment. Maybe one day in the future, it's like we'll revisit it, I guess. But at the moment, this is still just us. And until we get the third party of like trying out this very fuzzy idea of a process in my head, we're not going to know the kind of walls people hit. Like I don't even know the skill level of someone who would be starting this. Like we have that getting started doc, and it's kind of this hybrid of, if you're unfamiliar with Git, here's how to install Git, and here's how to write a JavaScript class, and here's how to make a game in here. It's like there's a bit of a gap between like even in that one document who I think my audience is. So I think I don't know who we're going for. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think in one of the earlier podcasts you said that you think that if somebody's interested in it, they probably would go out and do some research as well. Like they aren't just going to read like our documentation, be like, well, I'm going to write JavaScript now. They're probably going to have to do some looking at JavaScript and like, oh, what does this function do? What does this function do? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I want to also leave the window open for someone to not have to do that. You know what I mean? Like I want to provide something where it's like I don't want to just be like, look it up. Something like who is listening to this podcast, and does that person write Node? I don't know, but if they don't, I'm not gonna be like, look it up, because I don't think that's super productive. And I talked about, I think a long time ago, like here's the CPU, and I don't want to do that, but I do want to provide, at least on a very basic level, kind of like what I do in the getting started document. Like here's 12 lines of code. If you copy and paste this, you'll get a red square that says hello world. And even before that, to kind of bridge the gap of like, I Googled the words home games and I found this podcast of these two people and I like them for whatever reason. So I'm going to go and see what they're building. Oh, I think this might be cool. I want to learn Node. And we're just like, yeah, you can Google it. It's all good. It's like, I want to be more welcoming, I guess, in that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think the only thing is, like, for me, I think there's, like, some fundamental knowledge that people probably would need to write a game of, like, there was, like constant lets and functions and stuff like that. Like, I think, like, in order to make a game, you probably do need to have that knowledge. I don't think there's a way to make the game without that knowledge. I think you would have to kind of, like, research it. But, I mean, like, we'd also be available. People messaged us, but I don't want it to be, like, another version of Stack Overflow.
I don't think we should start the, like, Homegames school for internet people or whatever. Like, I don't want to do that, especially because we're not very good teachers. Like, we're not qualified to...
serious offense to that. I was a TA, dude. TA.
Okay, I'm not a good teacher. So I just don't want to be in that position, and also because that's like not what we're really trying to do. I guess I want to provide support, but not the foundation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, for the record, I was joking. I was a TA, but I'm not a good teacher.
You carried me through the first 2 years of computer science, so that's something. I don't know if that's teaching or assisting or whatever, but there's something there. You're good at something.
It's a mix of the two. That's what teaching assistant is.
Yeah.
Part teaching, part assisting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, and then I guess from there, I have another question on kind of like how I wanted to view terms of service. What are we checking for when we're doing the review? I mean, from my side of things, what I would be looking for is just like, do the unit test pass? Can I start Homegames still? Can I start your game? Can I move around? Can a second player join? Can they move around? Can I do anything? Can I like interact with the world basically?
I'm less strict on that. I think if someone makes something that is not necessarily multiplayer, and sorry, I'm checking my text, but everything is resolved. Everything is good. If someone wants to make a single player game with no movement and no interactions, you know what I mean? Like if someone wants to make some weird abstract art piece in Homegames, I don't want to say no to that as long as it's not bad. And that's very fuzzy. I say bad, I mean like intentionally bad. It can be like janky and it can be kind of rough looking. But I guess if it's like offensive is not really covering it. Like offensive is like a subset of bad. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I guess I don't know. I think I'm very loose with the requirements. I think someone should be. My goal is like someone sees the tools and they're like, oh, I want to make a game or I want to make a thing that does this over the network, or maybe not over the network and it's just on someone's browser, or it's just on someone's phone on one person and there's no anything beyond what it shows you, but maybe it's based off of something. And I think when someone provides that to us, we need context. Like we need context for anything someone gives us. If it's a RPG or if it's, the layer test or whatever, either way, we need some sort of something of information from the person who made this to say, this is what it is. And this is how you do it, how you play it, how you whatever. And as long as the intention is within like a reasonable thing, you know what I mean? Like, and they actually execute on that intention, that's all I can really test for. The ability that like multiple people can connect. Sure, like 2 people can connect to the socket server, but what's the expected behavior beyond that? If you go beyond that, you're talking about implementing something very specific in someone's game, like a requirement in their actual game that it needs to support 2+ or it needs to support something. And I really don't want to provide, I don't want to have those limitations for people.
I guess when I meant like a second player could join, I was thinking specifically for a multiplayer game. If it is a single player game, I'm not gonna be like, well, why can't a second player join?
Yeah,
Because it doesn't make much sense. But I do think that we should be testing like, can a player connect to this thing? And if you are supposed to be able to do something, I should be able to do something. Like if you're supposed to be able to move, I should be able to move. If you should be able to attack, I should be able to attack. Like I shouldn't in the first like 5 minutes of playing your game, I shouldn't break your game shouldn't explode from me doing just like the most basic stuff.
Yeah. I think we should maybe set a time limit to say, okay, we are here and we have the ability to look at your thing that you submit to us. Maybe we say, hey, 10 minutes is all we're going to give your game. We're going to mess with it, and we're going to mess with it based off of the information that you provide in this document. You say, click this to reveal the ability to attack. Click this to, like, you tell us how your game works so we can get to the part where we actually test it, because we're not really playing the game for the experience. We're playing the game to make sure it works.
Yeah.
We're doing QA. It's like we just need to be strict with the like time and say, hey, you only have this much. Like, we can't test your game for 4 hours. We can't test your game for a week. We're not going to beat your game necessarily. But it also doesn't have to.
Although if your game can be beaten in 5 minutes.
Square can be beaten in 5 minutes. Technically.
I think with the changes, it's harder to beat it in 5 minutes.
But you could technically do it, I guess.
Technically, you could beat it in however long it takes to traverse a couple of squares.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like,
Okay,
Square is a good
true.
use case. Like, it's a good example. If I didn't know any context about Square and you said, yo, check it out, it's Frogger, you move with the keys and you have to get to the end. Got it. Like, that's the context I need. I'll give you 5-10 minutes and tell me what I need to be able to do. And at a certain point, I'll be like, yeah, it does that. If it's just, we talked about this last week, but like if it crashes midway through level 8, like we just don't have the resources to know that. I would just hope that the person making the game would test that. But that's kind of the weirdness with all this open source, like hippie software stuff. It's like, no one's making anybody do anything, and no one really has incentive to do anything. Like there's no anything here besides having your code in a public repo. So, who's gonna test it? Who's responsible for testing it? Why would they care enough? And then you could think about like, oh, maybe we have a community with like people and some sort of community moderation, people who are interested in playing and QAing games, and they're like trusted people that we know, something like that. And then we kind of give this work to other people and hope that they do it, because it's all just hippie stuff again, like there's no system here. But I think delegating some of that to people who would be interested in playing games, we could disguise it as some sort of like market, play hot new Homegames beta releases before they're available. You know what I mean? Like you could kind of whatever, and then have people sign up to be like QA for someone, and we get bug reports.
Early access, bro.
Yeah, early access. It like blue screen on start, but you signed up for this, so it's kind of...
You paid us $30.
But yeah, I really don't know. But I think it's all about spending time in a way that is valuable, and maybe the idea of someone's first interaction with us being just a game and a thing, because I think that might be a bit of a wall of information to give us. We don't really have context for what's going on beforehand, because I don't want someone to spend like a month building their like masterpiece, and then they realize that we don't support or we don't allow or whatever something. So I guess I don't know how that works. But again, that's kind of why I want someone to just build something and then tell us why our process sucks, so we can fix it.
I agree. One of the things that I actually just realized while you were talking, and I added to the bottom of this, is that we should probably add a section in the metadata for a description for the games.
We have that. It was in my.
Oh hell yeah! Okay.
If you watch the newest Homegames developer update, there's a little description thing in the metadata.
Well, there we go. We're gonna pretend like that was a plug for that video. and not like I thought of an idea that we already had implemented. You had already implemented.
To be fair, it's not in
We
master.
probably talked about it on the podcast, and I just spaghettied it.
That was one of those things where I was like, there's like 12 different things I had to talk about, and I get like winded talking because I like get nervous in this podcast. It's like giving a presentation and I'm like, okay, so here's what I did, and it's like any half of a second of silence, I'm just like, oh god, I have to fill this. So I'm trying to not do that, but yeah, it was like I just run through hours and hours and hours of stuff that I did in like 2 minutes and hope that you could like absorb all of it. It's like, that's not realistic. So anyway, whatever, there's a description in the game.
Cool. All right, you ready to move on to what's up, or do you have anything else you want to talk about for terms of service?
No, that's all.
Cool. All right. Do you want to open up with the moving topic? Did I accidentally cut you off on?
No, I just didn't see your TOS note, because we have our notes for everybody who's listening / watching this. It's beginning, and then Homegames, and then Yazeed, and then bullet points, and then Joseph, and then bullet points, and then discussion. I forgot there was a discussion section, so I completely skipped it. Anyway, what's up? We're moving. That's my what's up.
That's right. You're moving back home.
Yes.
We're going to hang out once the self-quarantine ends. It's going to be great. I'm so excited for it to end.
That's the other thing. We've been alluding to that since the beginning. We've been planning on moving back since before we started this podcast. We just haven't mentioned it. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning, it was one day we will live in the same city and we will be able to record this in person. In the meantime, we'll do this on the internet, and it'll kind of suck. But in the future, when the world returns to something more closely resembling normal, Yazeed and I will be doing them in person, similar to episode 20. Maybe not always in the same place, but we'll record them in person, and our audio sync issues won't be here, and we'll be able to hear each other when we speak because we'll be in the same room, and it'll be glorious. Just not today.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. Very, very excited for it. Yeah. We're going to live in the Echo Cavern, and Joseph's going to have a whole section for him to record his place. It'd be great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the whole buying a house thing got thrown out the window because the world exploded. But sometime we're going to buy a house. And
that's right. In the meantime, I'll visit your ma, and she'll give me pickles, and you'll have to eat them, and I'll feel bad. That's a throwback to a joke from a long time ago, to a story that maybe one day will come up on the podcast.
Maybe. You could provide anyway, it doesn't matter. One day, maybe people will learn about us, but not today.
Not today. I think that's one of those, like, when we're doing a double episode, we do, like, one that's Homegames intensive and one that's, like, chilling. We're just chilling, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of double recording.
Because we are off. For people who don't know, what we were doing was recording and then giving a week for the editor, which is one of us, to edit the podcast. And this one, we're recording it, and then, like, 2 or 3 days later, the episode needs to be there. So it's like, we record, you edit, you put it out there, and then there's like a long period where you're like, you either do nothing and then you work, or you work and then you do nothing, or you do like some in between on Homegames stuff. So
yeah, the idea was, yeah, basically what Yazeed said, and like we would have some sort of a buffer period because our lives get busy, and so if there ever came a scenario where we wouldn't be able to record on a specific week, it's okay because we have the week-long buffer. So we would then just record that whatever, but we never really had the foresight to realize that when you do that, you need to double record to gain that buffer back. So that's like the food episode that we did. That was our double recording. I think the only one that we've ever done at this point. So it's kind of hard to be like, the content of this is based off of the effort that we put into a thing within a week. We can't gain that again. Like, we can't double our week time. You know what I mean? It's just like super tricky. So trying to think of things that we can be like, okay, well, some feedback was like, who are we? So we could probably talk about that at another thing, but that would be like
hey, we got feedback? All right.
Well, I thought that was from my mom. So I was trying to keep it anonymous, you know. It's from my mom. Because she likes us, and so she wants us to talk about how we know each other and how long we've known each other, and you know, the whole Joseph and Yazeed story. But that could be a whole separate thing. So we'll use that for content for a double recording episode sometime. But that'll likely be when we're in person, because that seems to make sense when it's in person.
Yeah, I agree. Do you mind if I talk about my ultimate betrayal of my dog.
Yeah, go for it. It's your bullet points.
So, for people who don't remember or didn't know, I got a dog recently, fairly recently, like what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. And she's gone with me everywhere. And literally, whenever I've gone, she's gone with me. Because I mean, she's new. She's an adopted dog. I don't know how she's gonna react. I don't know if she has separation anxiety. And so this past week, I left her at home because I need to go to the grocery store, and it's getting hot in Tucson. It's too hot for me to leave a dog in a car with the windows down. I don't think that's healthy. So I left her at home with the AC, and I went to the grocery store, and she did pretty well. I don't know what she did, but she just chilled. And then yesterday, we went on our last walk of the day. It ended. We came inside. I gave her water, gave her food. We chilled for a little bit. And I needed to go and spray my front yard and backyard for weeds because I have an HOA, and that's something that they get on me about pretty regularly. Like once a quarter, I get a letter saying I haven't done the weed thing. So I was like, all right, I have to go do the weed thing.
Because people who are on the HOA don't have anything better to do with their lives.
Straight up, dude. I agree. Hard agree. But I mean, obviously, if you're spraying weed killer, you don't want to be spraying weed killer with your dog next to you. So I had to leave her inside. So I made her stay inside. And I went out through the garage, was spraying weed killer and everything. And I sprayed the whole front. And then I had to go and spray the backyard because I was like, well, if I'm doing this, I might as well just do a good job of it, So as I was going into the backyard, I left the curtain open and I could see what she was doing. And she was laying down right next to the garage door, like right next to the garage door, like very much so, like waiting for me to come back. And I was doing my thing, and I made a noise on the porch, and she woke up, and she saw me, and she looked pissed. I've never felt the emotion of anger from a dog before, but she stopped sleeping by the door, and she went off somewhere into the house, and I couldn't see her anymore. And when I came back, she didn't come and say hello to me, and she was pissed off at me.
So she got mad because you were out in the yard?
Yeah, she thought I had gone on a walk or something without her. And she was mad. Basically, she stayed, at least a whole room away from me all night yesterday. Yeah. And then this morning, she was cool about it again. But, yeah, she was super mad. I felt like I betrayed my dog's trust last night. Yeah.
That's funny. I don't think I've ever had a dog mad at me either. But I guess maybe I don't notice. But, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that's what I mean by she's like a real little lady. Like she gets mad like a Victorian era lady of the house would get mad at her husband or something.
Yeah. And then doesn't mention it, just avoids you, and then the next day everything is fine. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fine not in the Victorian era, but for her, she requires me to feed her.
Yeah.
If she's mad at me, I imagine she's afraid of if I don't show him affection, what if he doesn't feed me? Yeah. Little does she know, I'll feed her anyway because I like her.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that quite yet.
Is she feeling better, by the way?
Yeah. She finished for people who don't know, she had a respiratory infection. Probably from when I got her from the kennel or whatever. From the kennel, from the shelter that I got her from. And she finished her antibiotic dosage, and she's doing a lot better. She no longer sounds like an angry goose is trying to escape through her mouth. So yeah, she's good. She's 100%. We went on a run today, which is our first real run.
Nice.
And she loved it. So yeah.
How does that work? If it's 100 degrees outside, do you have to do anything special to account for?
Ooh, buddy. So here's the dealio. We go very early in the morning, so 7 a.m. before it gets too hot. Yeah. And then we go at around 11:30, and I take her on dirt trails, so it's not on the cement, because I feel like that's better. But I did buy her shoes today, which I've never put shoes on a dog before. And it is not easy.
Are they Jordan 1s? What kind of shoes does a dog wear?
They're little slip-on shoes. So little kids, they can't tie shoes. So you have little Velcro.
Like booties?
And you Velcro them on. What? Yeah, they're little booties. Yeah, you put little booties on. They have a little rubber pad at the bottom, and that's it, so their feet don't touch the hot cement.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, she didn't like them. slash took him off slash was walking like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean like, haha, like the YouTube videos, like the dog like way raising its arms up when it's walking because it thinks it stepped on something. I mean, like, she tried to walk on her tippy toes, and I think that's bad for a dog's ankle.
Yeah.
So I flipped her over. Like, I literally just like picked her up and put her on her back and then took the shoes off and gave her a treat. So hopefully she gets like, shoes aren't bad, but I need to get her used to like wearing them before it gets too hot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but we also go like late in the afternoon. So today we left at 6:30 or 6:15. Sorry, we left at like 6:15, and it was probably like 90 degrees or less. But I do like the test that like you put your hand on the sidewalk for 15 seconds or something, and if it's fine, it's probably fine for your dog.
Yeah, the thing I've always heard is like if it's too hot for you, it's too hot for the dog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna try on running with her on barefoot, but I will put my hand on the sidewalk and stare at her while I do it.
Yeah.
Don't make direct eye contact. I don't know if she knows why I'm doing it, but I do it anyway.
I am your equal. We are the same.
I touch the cement first, dog. You don't. That's pretty much how it goes, yeah. And then aside from that, I started playing a game, and I think it's still early access, but it's called Empires of the Undergrowth. And basically, you run an ant colony. It's a lot of fun.
I've read about that, but I don't know where. I think it might have been on Steam, or maybe it was you telling me about it or someone.
Probably. I've been trying to hype this game up to as many people as I can, because when they put out multiplayer, I want somebody else to play with me.
So is it just like an RTS, or I forget what the game is?
Yeah, so basically like you start with a queen and then like a couple workers, and then you have to like build an ant colony. So like you have to like chunk out, you know, like you're surrounded by dirt and you're underground, and then once you hit like a certain once you're like a certain a level, you can send your troops outside, or like you can do that from the beginning too, but like you typically will like kind of like excavate and like kill anything that's around you, and then you'll build up your colony. And it's like an RTS, but you don't like have complete control of your ants. You have what's called pheromone markers, and you just kind of like place them around, and sometimes not all the ants go to those pheromone markers because they're ants. Right. So there's like a little bit of like randomness on like how many ants will actually listen to you. So it really is like you're trying to control like a swarm of ants, but you have some sort of ability to do so.
The randomness sounds like it would very much frustrate me.
It's not like I put down a marker and 0 ants went. It'll be like I put down a marker and 90% of the ants went, and the other 5% are like lollygagging. But there's like tricks of the trades. Like you don't put markers like really far away and then expect every ant to just like immediately sprint over there like a traditional RTS. Right. You kind of like put a marker and then wait for the ants to group, and then you put another marker and then wait for them to group. So it's like a lot of like patience in the game of like you gotta make sure you're moving them as like a cohesive unit.
So an RTS game that requires a significant amount of patience, and you're saying this game would interest me. Do you know me?
I don't know if it would interest you because there's not really any story to it. You're literally just controlling ants. I just think it's fun.
I don't need story, man. My favorite game
it's very relaxing, actually.
My favorite game is about shapes shooting other shapes. You know, I don't need stories.
That's true.
I just need fun.
I enjoy it. It's very relaxing. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to go and fight this other colony now. It's like, let me get my warrior ants ready to rock and roll. And then we attack the other colony. It's like, oh, they held us off. So, like, we got to, like, rebuild. And then we do it again.
That does sound fun. I think I don't want to play with you, though. Because RTSs and you and me don't go well.
I take offense to that would be cooperative in this one.
If it's co-op, that's fine, but you'd basically have to carry me. But if I'm playing against you, I'd rather just turn the game off. There's no chance for me. You somehow like will roll into my base with like the mega tank ant within 30 seconds, and I'm like, whoa, I don't even know you can get that. I'm dead.
For people who don't know, Joseph and I played 8-bit armies against each other, and I had literally never picked up the game, and I think I beat Joseph every time we played.
Embarrassing.
And we literally haven't played since. We played that once.
Yeah, my last play on that is like April 2018 or something. You ruined that game for me.
I think the one that broke him was actually like we were playing, and I just like casually was like, I think I could beat you right now, and Joseph was like, what? And then I beat him right then and there.
Just being bullied.
I gotta get back at you some way. Just kidding. We have one more bullet point on what's up. Want to talk about it?
Oh, it just says life is hard. That was just an author's note in the notes. I'm so tired, dude. Like,
I believe it.
Like
I believe it.
Sleeping for 4 hours in a car. It was a rental. In a car in someone's driveway, knowing that all you have to do is sleep in order to keep going is like a really weird thing. And then driving, you're just driving for hours and hours, and at a certain point you like don't know what time it is. Like you've lost track of time. What's going on over there? You just like dropping bunches of forks? Or is that the dog?
No, Sapphire sleeps under my desk when she wants to be close. So here's the full story on the betrayal thing.
Yeah.
So since this morning, she's literally, this is the first time she's left my side. She will be right next to me all day. I think she's afraid that I'm gonna leave her again and like go on a walk without her. So she'll sleep under my desk while I'm sitting here and like working and stuff.
Yeah.
When she wakes up, it's like makes a ton of noise because she like kicks the like wall and like her tail wags and like she shakes herself off. Like it sounds like somebody dropped quarters into my like, onto my floor.
She slept underneath your desk before though, right? That was like her spot.
Yeah, she sleeps. This is her spot. That is her spot. But I mean, just after the betrayal thing, she hasn't left my side like all day today. Like I'll be like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and she'll be like, I'm coming with you. And she normally doesn't go to the bathroom with me, but she's like, I'm gonna watch you do what you're gonna do in there. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like the eye contact. I don't like any of this.
You have doors, bud. You can close.
She know the problem is that she stands in between the like doors, and like the way the door closes in its arc to its final destination, she'll put her face right where I need to close the door. And when I start to close the door, she's like, "You won't do it, coward." And I'm like, and then I'll like close the door all the way, and then she'll be like, "Well, I have to come in there now." And then that makes it worse because like she was by the door, but now she's like in the bathroom with me, like in the like toilet room with me, the wash closet with me, and I'm just like, hello. But she doesn't break eye contact either. It's a real power move, honestly.
Yeah. Especially because she like just moved in, you know. She's not.
No, it's just a really new roommate, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny though. But yeah, anyway, my bullet point was just life is hard, and I'm very tired.
I have a question for you on your drive up there. Did you guys stop for food anywhere or no?
I ate McDonald's twice yesterday, dude. I felt like I was dying.
No.
Like if you put 4 McDonald's sandwiches into your body in one day, you should be arrested, because it's just not a good idea to benefit yourself and your body. Like it was like 11 p.m. and I was just laying in the Grand Caravan that we rented and just thinking about the choices that I had made that day. Like I drank so much of those like refrigerated, like the iced Dunkin' Donuts coffees. Those are like my favorite. So I had 2 of those. I also had a giant thermos of just coffee. So it was just a bunch of caffeine, greasy garbage, and driving for, like I said, 8.5 hours or whatever. And those things combined don't create a good like mental state. And then 4 hours of sleep in someone's parking garage or whatever, someone's driveway, and then waking up at 3 a.m. to start driving again. Like I went from 3 a.m. to noon-ish, just driving again, and then Zenobia finished the rest. But like, you're just like going, you know, your brain is kind of on autopilot at a certain point. Like I was aware of everything that was happening. It's just, you're just driving for so long. It just feels, you just die a little.
Yeah, that's why I hate road trips with a serious passion. I'd much rather fly.
I love road trips, but I don't know why. Like road trips are only fun for a couple hours, and then it's just exhausting. Like this was the longest road trip I've ever been on in a straight go, because I originally moved out here and I drove with my cousin. So we did a 3-day road trip, Tucson to LA to San Francisco to Portland to Seattle. And that was fun. It was like a little vacation out of it. But this was like, no, we got to go. And also, everything is weird. Like places aren't open the way that you would expect them to be. Like Targets and Walmarts are closing earlier. Totally understandable why. But like, we have to get here because our lease is up. We can't fly in a plane because it's flying in a plane. and going to an
Mm-hmm.
airport and all this other craziness. And also because the airlines are currently like super screwed up, there's no direct flights except for Alaska, but they were like $900 for a direct flight, and I'm just not going to do that on principle. And the other things were, you know, more affordable, but they were like 11-hour flights because they required connections. But because the schedule is so limited, those connections don't happen often. So I wasn't going to wait in an airport for 8 hours or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
thought it'd be fun to drive and safer and better to drive. But like my original plan was like, we're just going to go straight on. Like I'll drive 6 hours, maybe 8. Synovia will sleep during that time, and then we'll just swap off and be sleeping. But like it does not work like that. You can't. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. So luckily we had a place where we can sleep in someone's driveway, and that was kind of weird too because Synovia knows this person, and he was just like, hey, you guys like good out here? Like it's like we're just sleeping in a car in someone's house, you know. Super bizarre experience all around. But we're gonna do it again when we drive back down in a couple weeks.
Golly.
Yeah.
My advice: take a salad with you.
I should, but I won't, you know, because I'm a fool. I'll be like, hey, you know what sounds great? McDonald's again.
No. Still eat at McDonald's. Still eat at McDonald's, right? There's nothing wrong with McDonald's. It's the traditional American travel food.
Yeah.
It's a traditional American food, all right? But take a salad with you and just eat a little bit of it. I think it'll help a lot.
Probably. Also water. That's very beneficial.
You don't need that. You're like a cactus. They don't even want it. They need like Mountain Dew.
I bought a Red Bull this morning. I know.
I haven't had a Red Bull since college.
I hate Red Bull. I don't remember last time I had one. Anyway.
Probably the hackathon.
Oh yeah, didn't they sponsor it?
They did. We drank like 14 of them between us.
I'm surprised we survived that thing. But anyway,
I did.
Part of you died that day.
Part of me definitely died that day.
We went to
like that week.
Yeah, we went to Waffle House. There was something missing in your eyes afterwards. It's just, you never really recovered. No, anyway, I needed to buy something because I had to use the restroom, but it was for customers only. So I went and didn't know what to buy. So I bought a Red Bull, and I still have it because I don't drink Red Bull. So fun fact, you know, just I own a Red Bull now. Milestone in my life.
Interesting. Are you gonna frame it?
That's a great idea. I haven't considered it yet, but I'm kind of weighing my options. You know, I have some really good things I could be doing with it.
Here's an idea. This is actually a pretty good idea. When you and Synovia finally like move in together, again, you crack open the Red Bull.
Like 6 months expired.
You're
Red
like,
Bull.
so Red Bull lasts like 7 years, dude. You're good.
Poison.
You're good. Yeah, you're good. There's nothing can survive in a Red Bull. You're good. You're just like, Snowy, listen, we know we made it. We got our place together again. Living in the big AZ. And you crack open the Red Bull and you pour some for her and you pour some for you, and then you just do it. There you go.
I would.
You drink the Red Bull. I don't mean like you bang. I mean, you can do that too, but
I would think like wine or something classy, but no, yeah, splitting a
wine's
Red
for
Bull.
schmucks. Red Bull, the Red Bull that you bought on your way to Seattle to leave Seattle.
Yeah, well, I was thinking it'll come in handy at a certain point here because we have been planning on moving for the longest time, but we had all these plans of what we were going to do, but like I said, it all went out the window. So we basically, like I said, just got here today at 4 and it's currently 8, and we have to pack up this entire apartment like from scratch and have it all good to go by Wednesday. Today's Sunday, so I'm gonna need that Red Bull at a certain point. I'm also gonna be intoxicated like the entire time again because I have so much whiskey to go through. Darn, I'm not complaining. It's just a matter of fact. I'm gonna be intoxicated while packing all of my stuff over the next 3 days, and that Red Bull will come in handy at a certain point.
Hell yeah. You ready to move on to Song of the Week?
Song of the Week. I'm trying to see what the voice should sound like, trying to get my announcer voice going, especially now that I have my mic back.
It sounds really crisp, and it hasn't cut out. I hope it's the same for you.
I can hear myself, yeah. I'm just kidding.
You could hear me.
Joking.
I'm glad you could hear yourself.
No, I can hear you.
For a second, I was like, I don't know how to respond to
I
this.
could tell by your face.
Nowhere in my podcast training did this happen.
Our very formal podcast training.
You want to make a podcast together?
Yeah, sure, I guess.
Well, the answer was no, and then eventually the answer was yes.
6 years later, it was okay.
Yeah.
Let me get my notes.
So my song of the week is RKCB's song Vice.
It sounds like techno. I don't know anything about it, but the name RKCB sounds like hard bass.
It's just indie pop. It's just indie pop with a dude.
Oh.
That's all it is.
Kind of disappointed, but still.
I actually don't listen to hardcore techno, so
I believe it. I'm just saying the name RKCB just screams to me, I don't know how.
I don't know what RKCB stands for, but I'm just going to make a wild, uneducated guess. It's the initials for band members, or the initial, like the first letter of a bunch of band members' names or something like that.
It's so lame. If that's the case, I hate this song. I haven't even heard it, but I hate it.
I like it. It's a fun song. It's a little bit introspective, but it's got that pop beat to it.
So I've been listening to your songs of the week for the past 3 weeks consistently. Like I've listened to some here and there. What should I be like from your perspective? What should I be listening for when I hear these songs? You're like, this is my song of the week. You should hear it because it like lyricism or the mood or the singing or the beat or the overall everything. Like, what's the part that I should focus on?
So I think there's two things. One, generally speaking, something about the lyrics interests me. Two, you shouldn't really have to pay attention to the song. Like, when I listen to a lot of my music, it's when I'm doing something else. Like, I generally am writing code while I'm listening to music. So for me, I want code. Like, I want a song that I kind of like, to use like an earlier term that we were using, like vibe with. Like, I just want it to be like, I want it to like fit what state I'm in mentally, basically. Like, I want like a chilled out song while I'm like chilled out and working. I want like a fast paced song when I'm like frantically working. So RKCB's Vice is like, I think it's pretty mellow. It's just like, like you're just having your work day,
Sure.
It should be like a song that you could have playing in the background and you're like, yeah. But you don't have to be like, oh, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean, actually.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't explain anything, but I feel like it explains a lot.
Yeah. Like yeah, I know what you mean. It's something that you can have on, but you don't need to be like engaged with.
Yeah, that's like 90% of my music. There's only 2 songs that I listen to that I really engage with when I listen to them. So
you say 2 songs or 2 types of songs?
No, just 2 songs.
2 very specific songs that you like listen to?
Yes.
What are those songs?
So Intro by the XX is my all-time favorite song, and I'll stop doing whatever I'm doing to listen to it. Like, if it comes on randomly on Spotify, like, I'll literally just like, if I was working, I'll just stop working and I'll like experience that song, and then I'll go back to working once the song's over. I really like that song. Like, to me it captures the moment right when you start to do something. So like the way I always like try to imagine it is like, it's the moment right before you lift your feet off the ground when you're climbing a rock wall. So like, you have your hands in position, like you're committed to doing it. You have like one foot on, and then like that song is like that split second right before you like really like pull your weight up and then take your other leg off the floor. Like that transition period between like intention to do something and then like actually doing it. Like that millisecond. Yeah. That's what that song kind of feels like to me. And the other song is Playground by Momi, and that's just because it hypes me up when I was going rock climbing every weekend. It was like my lead-in to go rock climbing.
Yeah. The first description you gave is very specific, but I know exactly what you mean. The second one is more general. I think I know what you mean, but it's interesting. How long, like, what's the lifespan of these 2 songs? Have these been your 2 go-to songs for like a year, 5 years?
Intro by the XX. It actually started when I was in college and I wanted to listen to something while I did homework, and there was a 10-hour loop of it, and so I was listening to that, and it would just be like, that's when it would like do that. That's like when I realized like what that song meant, because it'd be like that when I would put it on. Like I realized like that was me transitioning from like I'm committing to do the work, like to do my homework, to like actually doing my homework. And that's when I was like, oh, I see. But then like I think the rock climbing one is like way more clear as an example.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then playground. Whenever I started rock climbing, it just came on once randomly. Like it'd been in my playlist and it came on randomly. Like when I was going to rock climb, and I was like, I like this a lot. Like I like the vibe that it built up when I was like preparing myself to go rock climb, like driving to go rock climbing. So like and it just became like a tradition.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier that or that we always talked about the vibe, I realized there's like for the past like 10 episodes, I've said the word vibe every single one. You could probably do like a vibe supercut of us just saying that word for like a good minute. It's kind of weird. That's like
vibe check. Wish that one in there too.
It's like a go-to word. It's like the vibe of the vibe. Like we talked about that, but everybody knows what you mean when you say like the vibe of something. Like you caught a vibe, you know? It's like it's just like universal vibes. That's the name of this one. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's a good name. I'm gonna write that down.
Naming these episodes are very hard. Typically, we'll just like I realized my last 4 were just topic ampersand topic because I just do that, and I try to go for alliteration. My boss actually, because she saw the titles of our podcast episodes, thank God she didn't listen to them. But she was like, "Hey, yeah, you're good with the alliteration." I was like, "Hey, someone noticed." Like games and gizzards, for example. Anyway, my song of the week is 30 Hours by Kanye West. It's a song where he talks about driving 30 hours to go see this girlfriend or whatever. And
that really must have connected with you while you were driving.
Played on the road trip because our road trip was 26 hours, and I was just like, this is incredible, you know?
Like we have to take a 2.5-hour detour. So
That's not, that math doesn't add up, bud.
No, because you take a 2-hour detour, and then you take a 2-hour detour back. So that maybe would make it 30. Oh, I said 2.5, didn't I?
It'd be 31. It's all good.
That was 31. I was close. I was close. All right.
No, yeah, it's a great song. It's from Life of Pablo. It's his 2016 album that is super wild. He updated that album 5 times after he put it out, and I really hate that. But that song is still good. There's a great sample in it, and he raps on it, man. That's fun. It's like it's got such a feeling. I don't want to use the word vibe, but it's got such a feeling to it. There's so much like it sounds like driving. There's like this weird hollowy like echo in it, and just driving while that song played just like hit something. But the beat is anyway something about it. You should listen to it. It's great. I also listened to Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey. Is that what the song is called?
Yeah.
I've heard that song before. I don't know where. Maybe in a commercial for something. But I liked it. It's not generally my kind of music, but I did like it quite a bit.
Yeah, right. I like Lana Del Rey quite a bit, actually.
Speaking of music that's not my type, but I kind of liked it. Have you heard of Fiona Apple?
No.
So everybody I know who is like a music person says that they like Fiona Apple. Like, oh my God, she's amazing type stuff.
Like Fiona?
Yeah, or I think it's one N. Yeah, Fiona Apple. She has an album she put out just last week or 2 weeks ago. I listened to that and a bunch of Griselda, which is like the group that Benny the Butcher is in. So, you know, you got to have a little mix of Fiona Apple and hardcore New York hip hop. But there's if you listen to one particular song, I think, let me get the name right real quick because it's on my playlist. One sec.
Take your time.
It's called I Want You to Love Me. It's the intro song from her most recent album. That's not my song of the week. I just think you, Yazeed, should listen to it and let me know what you think. And if you're interested, you should listen to the album so we could talk about it.
The whole album?
I know. But if you like it, listen to the album. If you don't, then who cares? But Yeah, just listen to that. I think because it's just ladies singing with kind of like weird instrumentals, and maybe you'd be interested.
That sounds pretty much exactly what I look for in music.
Yeah, like that intro.
Unironic.
Yeah, like that intro song is like she just does crazy stuff with her voice. Like at the end, she sounds like Yoko Ono, where she does that weird like dolphin yelping. You know what I mean? Anyway, you should check.
I didn't know Yoko Ono did that, but okay.
Just look up Yoko Ono cringe, and you'll find videos of it. Anyway, it's like a super interesting song, and I'm curious to know what you think because people are very positive on it, and I don't think I have the ear to soak up that kind of music and really appreciate it for what it is, but I did like that one song at least. Also, Kanye updated his album. I know I referenced that, but I really do hate that. The fact that people can update their albums on Spotify and the old one just goes away. Like that needs to really stop.
What does it mean to update his album? Like, did he take away songs? Did he add songs? Did he like remix songs? Like, what's going on?
There's a famous tweet from him where it's just "I'ma fix wolves," but there's a song called "Wolves" with it used to have Vic Mensa, or I guess it still does. Anyway, there's like 5 different versions of this song called "Wolves," and the original album version didn't have someone's verse, and so then he tweeted out that he was gonna fix it, and then he updated the song after the fact to add that person's verse. But then there were other edits made, and I forget the actual timeline of what was made and whatever, but the fact that like he released an album and said this is done, and then was like, actually it's not done, and he has this quote where he said like nothing is ever done, which to me says that he feels like he can update any of his classic albums whenever he feels like with just something, which is crazy to me. Anyway, I think that like music streaming, that's like the worst part of music streaming, is that there is no physical copy of that album that ever existed. So if you don't have that original version that you stored offline or pirated or whatever, it has to go to piracy if you want the original version. Then you're like destroying a version of the album that was released. Like it's just gone. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to me that you can do that.
I didn't even know that was possible to do that. So I'm like, literally, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. It's crazy.
Kanye popularized it, at least with that album specifically. And then Young Thug did it with his most recent album. There's a song called Ecstasy where they uploaded a second version that has another guy named Machine Gun Kelly on it, and he's fine, but to me, I just don't want to hear that version of it. But the original's gone. Like, you can't find it. Luckily, I downloaded the MP3s. Like, I bought the album and I got the MP3s before that happened or whatever, so I have that, but it's like rare to have the original version of that song in a legal format, and that's so crazy to me. Like they stopped selling CDs, and now like music doesn't exist in any kind of final form. Like I can go and update the intro by the XX or whatever, intro by the XX, and make it like 4 minutes of breathing. It's like, it's my artistic vision, and I decided to change it. But it's like, you ruined the song, and who's to say that you can't do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy that they can edit music. I'm okay with pushing.
That would devastate me also, just so you know.
I think like a version of an album should be like immutable. Like, you should always be able to update, but it should create a new version as opposed to updating.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's a side thing. I'm mad that one of my favorite musicians popularized one of my least favorite things to ever happen in music.
I didn't even know that they could do that, but it makes me glad that I own a vinyl of the XX's first album, which I think is just called the XX.
I own the In Living Color on vinyl just because it has the best song ever made, which is I Know There's Gonna Be Good Times.
I don't even know.
Isn't that the name of
Isn't
that the name of the album? Let me check so I'm not stupid. Oh no, it's Jamie XX, but it's still the same thing.
Yeah, Jamie XX's The Good Times. Yeah, I know that song. I like that song. Actually, I didn't even know Young Thug was connected to that song. I just knew that Jamie XX was connected to the song, and I was like, I like this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yelping about writing in that P word like a stroller, you know, that's not something that Jamie XX would necessarily put out in his music, I think.
He's going to squish it like squish. Or she's going to squish it like squish.
I know what line you're talking about. I forget the actual words. Anyway,
she's gonna squish it like Squish. That's the line. I'm telling you, I know that line. That's one of the few rap lines that I know by heart.
Oh yeah, squish it, and then it's like the sound squish or whatever, right? Like he's gonna squish it like squish. Anyway, Young Thug. Young Thug is a magical human being who does very interesting things, and I love that guy. But I don't know any the XX songs. I just know Jamie XX and that one album.
If you heard Intro, I guarantee you've heard it before, and you've probably heard it on like a commercial or something, and I hyped it up too much by telling you it's like this deep emotional piece of my life. It's like 2 minutes of just like noises, basically. It means a lot to me.
That's fine. You can put emotional whatever in anything. Like, yeah, that Young Thug line in that song. I have emotional stuff to that because that was when like life was fun and that song is fun. So those two things go together. But there's nothing inherently deep about that song, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing like inherently deep about Intro. Just to me, it's like, I don't really know like why I made this connection to it, but I have this connection to it now.
It's all good. Like, for example, Slime Season 3 by Young Thug is a mixtape, and there's a lot of just like high energy, aggressive songs on that thing. And I always associate that with riding the bus to my old job. And that just creates like some weird emotional mental connection to that. So like, we ran up them digits, we ran up that money. Sounds like a bus ride to me. Something about it, you know? I don't know. But
it kind of sounds like a bus ride to me too now. I don't really have anything else though. Or do you have anything else you want to add on to this?
No. I think yeah, Kanye should stop updating his albums, and so should everybody else. I think you should listen to Fiona Apple. I think I'm going to sleep well tonight. And I think we will do this again next week where we will talk about lag and Spotify integration.
Well, Spotify integration may be next week.
We'll see, you know.
I don't know how long the lag thing we'll talk about.
Well, we somehow talked for an hour on this one or something like that, but
yeah, an hour and a half according to my notes.
That's insane. Well, I mean, I have anyway, I have close to that too, but we have the first 10 minutes of where we had to cut out on my recording, so.
No, we don't have that on mine, so that's okay. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Oh, wait, no. Check us out on homegames.io. Tweet at us, or leave a comment on YouTube, or email Joseph.
Yeah, all that. Joseph at homegames.io, homegames.io at homegames.io.
That's right. I like the Twitter one. If you tweet there, I will give you a heart.
Yeah.
Whatever it is on
something.
Twitter.
We'll interact with your interaction in some way. You make a YouTube comment. Do something.
I can't see YouTube comments. Don't make a YouTube.
You can't see YouTube comments?
No, I installed an add-on that hides YouTube comments.
You're an admin on our channel. There's like a whole feature about looking at comments.
Yeah, but like comments are dumb.
All right, comments are dumb. Leave a comment at our YouTube channel.
No, like listen, how many times have you been like, oh, I'm gonna go look at this YouTube video, and then you like you watch the YouTube video, and while you're doing it, you scroll down a little bit, and the first comment's like, who else is listening to this in 2020? It's like this song came out in 2020, fam. Like, what are you talking about? And then you get to like another one, and it's just like first, and you're just like, all right, what is this? What is this? So I just hit all the comments because I was like, I'm done with this.
I don't think we've.
But you're right that I should check the channel YouTube comments.
I don't think we have that like 12-year-old demographic really nailed down.
No, you told us like the demographic was like something to 35-year-olds.
18 to 35-year-old males.
Adults.
Yeah.
Adult people.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think the people that comment first and who else is listening to this or help me get free V-Bucks in Fortnite, I don't think any of that stuff is going to be in our comment section.
That's right.
You should read our comments. People are generally, I mean, there's like 4 comments. People are generally all right, you know.
That's right. Wait. Have you ever seen a video by Michael Reeves?
Michael
Real
Reeves.
quick.
I don't think I know who that is.
Michael Reeves. He's like a YouTube man who makes dumb robots.
I don't think I know.
He made the racist Elmo.
No.
He made when he plays Fortnite, whenever he gets shot in Fortnite, he gets shot in real life with an airsoft gun.
I think I read about that, or I saw part of that.
Okay, yeah. So in his comment section on his videos, people leave ideas for robots for him to make. and on his next video, I want to watch it like as early as possible, and I want to ask him to make a robot that sets fire to weeds.
Sets fire though. That seems dangerous.
Yeah, I want it to just burn weeds, and I want him to make it.
To take this tangent a little bit further, talking about requesting something that this person who has the skill to build the thing, how would you be open to the idea of someone being like, hey, I have an idea for a game and I think it's possible, but I don't know how to build it? Be like, hey, Yazeed, can you build this?
I mean, here's the thing. He professionally does that. I amateur do this. So I will agree to make a game if somebody wants me to make a game for them. What I won't guarantee is a timeline. I will give you updates consistently on the podcast, though.
Let's say,
as I make progress.
Let's say hypothetically, we built some sort of a career off of this, and we were able to make money off of this. What does that world look like? Where it's like people are commissioning us to do work for them? Like, I'm just curious. Like, how far does that go? I don't know.
Interesting. I think that it's fine if somebody was like, I'll pay you. Well, like honestly, like if somebody was like, hey, listen, if you stream you making a game, I'll watch it. I'll be like, that's fine. I'll make a game like on stream for you.
That sounds so boring to watch you listening to music. Not you specifically, the general, like you. It's like, yeah, here I am. I'm typing. Oh, missed a semicolon. Oh, changing the package.json. Like, I don't know who wants to watch that.
I actually think that could be interesting with home games though, because it could be oh, this function gets called, and then I could like track through and be like, oh, like so like see like in home games like core code, like it'll call this function. So if we add this function here, it'll do this utility. And like that's how we get that to work in. So I think it'll be like kind of interesting to like make a game, and whoever was watching this stream to like watch it and like experience the like flow of like, where do you start? Like here's an empty file, like an empty.js file. Where do we go from here? And it's like, oh well, first things first. I'm the realist. Second thing, we gotta like make a class, then like export the class, then in the index file we move that, and like got these import things and like.
But
blah,
wouldn't
blah,
that
blah.
be more of a planned like long form video, not necessarily a stream?
So it could be a long form video, but if somebody was commissioning me to make a game that they couldn't make, for example, I'd want them to like understand how I made the game.
What if
somebody like asked me like, hey, could you make the fastest hyper in the West? I'd be like, sure. And if you want to, I'll do a stream of it and I'll make it, and like I'll do like a hackathon for it, basically. Like I'll do it over the weekend.
But they don't have to want to, right? Like they could just be like,
no, they don't have to. If they were like, no. But if somebody asked me to do it, I would have to set up like a streaming channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that. So like I have to figure out all of that.
I have a Twitch
channel.
channel.
And also need to figure out what to do with dog while I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with streams is like you're just doing whatever. You're just gone for like 5 minutes. It's like, oh, Yazeed's pooping. That's just kind of the reality of the situation, you know?
It is true. My house echoes, though, and I don't know what they would pick up. I've never recorded in this room and pooped in a bathroom on the other side of this place.
Well, we'll...
it's so empty you could hear. That's all I'm saying.
Find out next week when Yazeed poops on Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast.
I'm sorry to derail the outro, but it was just something I thought of, and that was an interesting topic.
Yeah, maybe we could flesh that out in another thing, I guess. I just think it's an interesting idea, because there might be people who are like, hey, I want to play this game with my friends, and I do not care about what you're talking about. Which is totally fine.
And that's valid. And I'll give you updates on patch notes anyway, because I don't think I'll be able to make a whole game in a weekend, because
everything is hard.
You know? Yeah, it's not just that it's hard, you know? Like, there's things going on, you know?
So I'm saying everything is hard. Life.
That's right.
Everything. Anyway, see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. If anyone out there is celebrating Ramadan, good luck. I'm not. Yeah. It's too hard in Tucson.
Yeah.
It's too hot. And I get sick. Anyway, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.